Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of putting coilovers on some guy's car. This guy's pretty cool. This is his 2005 Acura RSX, as it may say right there. It's on some Motegi's, nothing too crazy, little engine mods here and there. I believe he said it's a stage 1 tune. Honestly, again, nothing too crazy, just a stock Type S. I don't think it's even a Type S for that matter. But he was getting tired of the original coilovers, so we're going to try and put on some better ones today. Alright, so first things first, we're going to put on some NEOMAX silvers. They're the adjustable kind with swift springs. He's got some tines on it right now, the green kind. They're just kind of like cheapies. They don't really do much. Hang on, let me make sure this thing doesn't fall off. Okay, we're good. So it's on some rear strut bracing, front strut bracing, K-tuned arms, sway bars, shorter tie rods, brake lines, braided steel brake lines, and really a whole bunch of stuff. It's got a really cool exhaust on it too. I believe it is a Skunk 2 exhaust at that. You may see as I lift it up, it's got the rear arms as well, and literally just about everything for suspension mods. It's got the little snorkel to the wheel well in the front left, and yeah, just a lot of cool things on this car. Yeah. This lift takes a little while. It's still not going to fall off. Any extra precautions here, as you may tell. Alright, let's get this thing ready. Right then, so while I lay these things out, I'm obviously inspecting them and making sure they're all good. They're honestly great quality. They're not too bad at all. Making sure there's nothing else in the box. Always going to make sure about that. He's on some Motegi's. Pretty nice little 17x9s, I believe is what they are. That would be the typical setup for these guys. Alright, jumping straight into it here. I'm going to show you how I went through this. He's got top camber bolts that are quite redundant at this point now because the NEOMAXs have a top hat adjustment for camber. Take out that bottom bolt, and then the top one was giving me grief because it's an adjustment bolt. And then everything just kind of slides out. Get out the tie rod, do the little trick where you turn the nut around and give it a little love tap. Then take off this strut bracing here. It was about this time that I learned that I have to take it off on the other side and then come back to take off the rest of the shock, just like that. Then comes the interior. This is my least favorite part because they kind of make these things atrociously. You gotta take off that little nut there and then take out this little clippy thing here that holds the net or whatever you hold your groceries in your RSX with. Then you gotta take out the little rear tail light thing, that little flappy thing too. This is about where I gave up and went, alright, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I just yanked it out of the car. No problem. There's a little clippy thing there. Then you gotta pull this thing out. And you gotta pull that open just a little bit so that way it can swing out, right? And then pull that little tabby thing there, pull that little tabby thing there, pull that little clippy thing out, and that little thing also comes out. The whole system comes out as I have it thrown on the table here. Here's a better look at that. So you take out that little cover, take out that little nut. It's a little long nut. Boom. Then the little clippy thing. As you'd imagine, it's a little fun with fingers. Get a screwdriver, why don't you? Take out those two little clippy things there that kind of pop in horizontally. And kind of pulls out like that, right? And then don't forget, there's that little junction right there you gotta pop, and pop that little clip there. And then it just kind of swings out from underneath. And then we're gonna take out this shack, little shock bolt on the bottom. Shouldn't take this long, I just didn't feel like using it. Whoa, what the heck, what happened to that thing? And you gotta pull out the shock with the top nut. It went a little limp there. I just fast forwarded, put some light on it. with a little swivel and a little action there. Boom. Just kind of pops out. It's kind of convenient because it holds it in place for you on the bottom because it's kind of like a pinch fit. Alright, now for the juicy bits. So you might see the NEOMAXs in the center. In case you didn't notice, the tines are on the outside, right? And really don't remember what I was going to say about all this fun stuff, but you can see that they're basically the same thing, obviously. They're adjustable dampening on the NEOMAXs, and they're not on the tines. The NEOMAXs are honestly lighter than the tines, so I found that to be surprising. I was checking the distance between where the bolts mount to the chassis and where the bottom of the shock bolt meets the control arm. So I was just basically analyzing exactly how I want to go about that, considering that the preload adjustment doesn't necessarily account for the height on the NEOMAX Silvers, where the tines are kind of dependent on that ride height on where you put that preload. I might have a lot of argument with that, but anyways, the NEOMAXs have a ride height, so we don't got to worry about any of that. This is where I'm checking basically how much throw the spring has, how many less coils it has even. And I basically have to adjust those once I get the preload on the NEOMAXs right to the tines, because oh, by the way, he wanted to keep it the same height. I don't necessarily know why, but he said it was just too low when it's too low, which is understandable being such a clean RSX. I mean, there is literally no body scrape whatsoever at all on this car. There's like a minor scratch on the rear bumper. So as you can see with these as well, the tines don't have an adjustable hat where these do, so they're on like a little ball joint looking thing for the NEOMAXs, and it kind of gives it an additional height from where the preload sits on that spring. So the adjustment there is definitely going to be a challenge, but nonetheless we're just trying to account for height, and we're going to try and spring around a valve eventually instead of valve around a spring. If you don't know what I mean by that, we're going to try and adjust the dampening to the spring instead of just the spring to the dampening. So we're going to set the preload on the NEOMAXs at about 10 millimeters from touching spring, which is a ton, because on a Swift spring, I believe the equation is every millimeter is 100 pounds. So that's going to be 1,000 pounds per corner. Now, just some quick questions while I adjust these things is that whenever anybody's putting on coilovers, they typically account for the amount of throw the coil's going to have, so basically how much it's going to compress into the body. That's kind of like a ride height thing really in the end of the day, but it can also be a preload adjustment depending on which coilovers it is. Now again, there's a lot of contradictory with preload, I don't know who that was, and whatnot, but it's best to get a bunch of measurements and all the data you could possibly get, so that way you can adjust your coilovers to the setting that you want them to be at. So like for instance, if you want them to be stiffer, you want to know exactly what preload you have them at before, or if you want to loosen the dampening, and just basically find that medium where you can just kind of experiment and figure it out. For instance, this is all the data that I got on the coilovers. You may notice that actually on the tines, they go up a little bit at the tie rod placement, so you'll notice that that's a geometric change, right? So you want to note that down and figure it out. So here I am basically scaling out these coilovers. You can pause the video on that data if you wanted to, by the way, in case you have the same RSX and want to know exactly what's going on with that. But ultimately, any coilover that doesn't have a ride height adjustment and just depends on its rebound and its preload to give it its ride height, I don't really trust to begin with. So this is me just making sure with a level that they're the same height and all that fun stuff. I'm going to put them in the car. Today. Eventually. I'm trying to find that lower pinch where the bolt would go through the control arm. So that's the way it would just kind of sit in there. Oh yeah, I'm also like spinning the shock because I forgot that was a thing. The top hat will spin on you. Kind of same deal for the fronts, not really. Honestly, these NEOMAXs came out the box perfectly. They made a really good job of making sure that they're just a plug-and-play solution when it comes to it. So even right out of the box, you're not in a huge hurry or anything like that to make sure that everything's right with it. Heck, they were even preloaded for that matter. Here I'm putting the nuts back on the shock, make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now again, make sure you tighten down the shock nuts first because that strut bracing, whatever it may be in the way. So just a quick friendly reminder for you. I also did adjust the dampening to just halfway, obviously just to set in. Until then, I told the customer to drive it a solid 500 miles and then come back and see exactly where he wants to put it now. When I say halfway, I mean from tight. So basically I adjusted from tight down to 12 because it's out of 24 clicks. And this is after all the work is done. I didn't feel like recording me putting it back together because I think you got the idea. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. So there's the strut all marked up and everything to make sure that my work is good, because I'm scared of that. Here's my dad. And here's all of that. It's all marked up nice. That way it kind of gives me a general idea if the customer kind of messes with it too. I marked that one later, don't worry about it. I marked that one too, don't worry about it. Yeah, that's me going, shoot, I forgot. And then here's me just loosely aligning it, and then here is what the result of that longer arm on the tine gave it. It was a solid 7 turns out when I installed them, so keep that in mind. I don't know if there's a drastic difference like that from the stocks to the NEOMAXs, but just keep it in mind just in case, because every manufacturer is kind of different on their geometry placing. But yeah, there's the whole car, and hope you like it. I didn't get any driving shots, of course, because I'm driving the car, but this was also after the alignment, and it just looked really good. I think the customer was pretty happy with it. He texted me immediately after. He was like, hey, this thing drives so much better. I was like, really? Because it felt stiff for me, but that's the point of bringing it back, Make sure you mark your nuts, of course. That's what I'm saying there. I put the little caps back on the studs too, so that way if they were to rust, if you're like a coastal car, it won't. So keep that in mind. It's always a nice little feature to add to protect the tops of studs and whatnot. And then there's the whole engine bay for you. Again, nothing too crazy. It's just a little stock RSX that's on some mad suspension. On other news, I got one of those. That moved up there. The Porsche's gone. It'll be back though. This, that, gotta make a manifold for that. That, as usual. Random stuff all over the place for the minute. Cleaned up a little bit, but yeah, that's really about it. Continuing work on this. Quintuple checked everything on it, so it should be all good. Got valve springs, this and that for that too, and then this and that, and then got that and doing that and making a video for it too, so yeah. And that's all. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please give me criticism. I want to know what you guys want to know and what you guys have to say. I want to know what everyone else has done with their build on the RSX and whatnot too, with coilovers and everything. Please, I want this channel to turn into a scientific channel, so no just because I think it's good. Please give factual evidence and whatnot. Yeah, just let's start a community. Thank you. Bye.